Hi, I'm Janet Raptis, Master Energy Healer and Intuitive Development Teacher. And every Tuesday, or almost every Tuesday at 5:15 Eastern, I share tips and tools for sensitive people, intuitive people. Hey Melissa, and so today I wanted to talk about how we can start to tune into intuition in our body. And I've talked about this before in other Facebook Lives with a little bit of a different slant, and it's something that I believe really strongly in, and I think it's one of the cornerstones of our intuitive experience. Hey Deborah. So when I say, where do you feel it in your body, and how is intuition expressing itself in your physical experience, your physical body, what I mean is that our body will communicate to us anytime it's feeling something, like every single time it's feeling something. And what has happened is that over the course of our lifetimes, in many, many cases, we have been taught to ignore the cues in our body, either through our family of origin, or through school, or through sports teams, or society. There are a lot of beliefs that we need to mind over matter, like overcome our pain, never mind our discomfort, no pain, no gain. So we're really taught to ignore what our body is sharing with us. And what happens is that, over time, we start to really kind of not embody our physical expression. We sort of start to go into our upper chakras a lot of times, especially for those of us who are sensitive, or those of us who have suffered trauma, or both. We tend to move into our upper chakras, and as we move out of our lower chakras and into the upper chakras, we tend to actually not even notice our body as much anymore. We don't seem to inhabit it as fully. So what I wanted to talk about really is about cultivating an awareness around your body, and tuning into your body and noticing when something happens, and stopping and saying, like, oh, I'm feeling something. What is that thing that I'm feeling? Because a lot of times there is an intuitive expression with it. Hey, Gabriella. So for example, I've given the example of the yes-no before, and the yes-no, and I'll link it in the comments here, is a great way to work with your body. But in addition to that, right, so our body is always telling us yes or no, but in addition to that, our body is sharing cues with us about our environment. So, for example, you might walk into a building and you might feel the energy of the building, and you might go like, wow, it doesn't feel good in here. Or you might find that you're avoiding one area of a building. Scott and I were talking with some people earlier today, and we were talking about how a lot of times in a house, there'll be one room that nobody ever goes in. And, but then nobody really knows why, or maybe it's become a storage room or whatever it is, right? And what we've found is that, usually that has to do with the fact that there's something in there that is uncomfortable. And if you were to actually spend a little bit of time in the room, or have an awareness around it when you walked into the room, then you might notice it doesn't feel good. Like, what's going on in here? Or there's something that feels sticky, or something that feels heavy, or something that feels sad. You might get this when you're talking with other people, and we say this all the time too, like, she's got great vibes, or, I love his energy, or whatever it might be. And when that happens, we tend to express it from even a mental place, but even though we're noticing it on a physical, right? So it is really great to start cultivating that awareness of, so I really like being around that person. I always feel good when I'm around that person. And to start noticing more, like, well, how do I feel around that person? And this is something that's really great. You can practice this with people that you love, so that you can start to really understand what the feeling is. Like, every time I'm with my partner, I feel really good, unless maybe I'm triggered or something like that, right? But when I'm around him, I feel really good. I feel open, and start to notice, how does that feel to you? I feel safe. Well, what does safe feel like in my body? Well, my heart chakra feels open. I feel relaxed. I feel calm. My heart rate is very calm. I'm breathing steadily. And then also to notice when you are around someone that maybe you don't feel comfortable around, and notice what's happening in my body now that I'm around this person. I have shortness of breath. I feel really anxious. My stomach feels tight. And to start noticing as you do that, hey Crystal, as you start to do that, you're going to start to notice patterns and ways that you feel. You'll start to notice, when I don't feel good about the energy around me, my solar plexus tightens up. Or when I feel good about my energy, or the energy around me, my heart chakra opens. As you start to really pay attention to that and to notice these subtle cues, what else will happen is that you'll start to be able to really use it intuitively. You'll start to be able to trust that sixth sense of like, well, you know what? I'm feeling a tightness in my solar plexus right now, and that usually shows me that something that's happening doesn't feel right to me, right? So maybe you're sitting down to sign some paperwork for something, and you feel that stomach, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, I've felt that tightness in my stomach before, and that's actually what I feel like when something doesn't feel good. And then you can reevaluate, because we tend to make a lot of decisions from our head. And again, just going back to, that's what we're taught. We were taught that our mind is the knower of all things, and our minds are awesome. They're very useful, they're great, but the mind really doesn't always know what's best for us, and the body always does. You always, say when I'm teaching that the body is our greatest divination tool. It's, it's with us all the time. It's always sharing information with us. So if we can really cultivate that awareness and that trust that our body is not lying to us, and we have to, of course, over time, this will get stronger and stronger, because sometimes we're dealing with triggers and sometimes we're dealing with other things as well. And I've done some Facebook Lives on those as well. And but as you cultivate this relationship, remembering that our body in this lifetime, our body is our first relationship, right? It is the first relationship that we had. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, it was a relationship that we became, even though we are physically inhabiting this physical expression, this framework, many of us have become distanced from it. And so this is a process of getting to know yourself again and really starting to understand the cues and pay attention to them. And this is a really important thing, is that when your body tells you something, is to pay attention. So if you're signing that contract and you get that bad feeling, it's beneficial to stop and say, what is going on here? And maybe even look through and notice as you're reading through it, like, how does this first paragraph feel to me? Oh, it feels good. How's the second paragraph feel to me? Oh, that doesn't feel good, right? And then you can say, like, I need to tweak this. There's something about this not right. And you can know what part of it that you're working with, and you can continue. And you can ask questions. Well, why doesn't this feel good to me? Or why does this feel good to me, right? It feels good to me because I feel safe. It feels bad to me because I feel like there's something going on in here. Well, what is it? And ask yourself and ask your body as you go through the process to have that dialogue with you, to be there with you, to be present with you. Or, your body is always there and present with you, but ask yourself to be present to what is happening with your body. Because you can use it for everything, like I was saying. And the more that you practice it, the stronger it will get. So I want to, and let me just say that everybody feels things differently. So I feel a lot in my chest. So if something does not feel right to me, I feel like almost like a fist in my chest, and I actually can like hunch over a little bit. And when something feels good to me, I feel very open and expansive, and sometimes I'll even notice my shoulders coming back, and I'll probably get a smile on my face. I smile a lot when something feels good to me. Some people feel it a lot of people do. That's where gut instinct comes from. So a lot of people feel it in their gut. A lot of people will get, feel it in their arms. Scott gets lit. He calls it getting lit up in his arms, and it's when his arms, kind of like vibrate. A lot of times chills as well, so I get chills often, or heat flushes. And the chills and heat flushes typically for me come from like some sort of resonance with spirit. Like if one of my guides comes in, or if an angel comes in, I'll either get flushed or get chilled, or if I get something that is just so spot on, I feel something so strongly, I'll get the chills to go with it. So knowing too that each of us will have like several different things that show that vibrational resonance for us, or the tightness. I notice a lot of tightness in my shoulders and neck as well when something doesn't feel right, when something feels heavy to me. And that's where I store a lot of stuff. And I also, over years of storing it, have created some patterns that then have to be reworked and undone. But I notice if, and Scott will notice too, if my shoulders are hurting, you're like, what's going on? And so, it's paying attention and being aware, and when it comes up, going, okay, and getting to where more often than not, we're noticing it right away. And so when we notice it right away, we're able to do something about it right away. So, I used to, I used to feel like I had to make a decision right away. If somebody asked me a question, I felt like I had to answer them right then. And also I'm super empathic, a people pleaser. You know, my whole life was like, until I became empowered with this stuff, was, you know, just say yes because it'll be easier, and then, you know, it won't rock any boats. And so I was always giving my power away in that way, even when it didn't feel right, even when I was getting a signal that it felt bad to me. I would just say yes, and I would say it right away. And so as I learned this, what I've come to understand and what I've come to utilize a lot is, if I feel something, you know, I may not be able to go fully into what it is I'm feeling in that moment, because let's say somebody asks me if I can do something for him, and I get a sense of like, something's not right. Now, it may be the person, it may be the situation, it may be the ask, it may be the timing. Like in that moment, I may not know. In that moment, all I might know is that something doesn't feel right to me. So in that moment, what I can do is just say, sure, let me think on it and I'll get back to you Friday or whatever it is. And so for me, listening to my body has really taught me to take that pause, however long that pause needs to be, to tune in and figure out what's going on. So if he asks me to do something and I figure out it has nothing to do with him, I actually really like him, I feel good around him, but it has to do with what he's asking me, then I can say, you know, I feel uncomfortable with what you're asking of me, or that doesn't really fit like who I am, or whatever it is. And you can start to fine tune and really understand. And as you do it, you'll notice that you're really in integrity with yourself, because as you listen to your body and your body is sharing information and you're paying attention to it and you're honoring it, what you will find is that you will be more in integrity with yourself. So for me, this was a big part of not giving my power away, was listening and moving forward in accordance with what was actually right for me. Once I started doing that, a lot of things started lining up for me. So I want to see if anybody has any questions. For some people, this is really easy to get, and for some people it takes longer, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to present the information in a little bit of a different way than I sometimes do. And if you have anything that you want to add, or anything that you want to share, or something that you want to ask about, I am available to answer questions. And I'm not seeing any coming in. So, hey, Philip. It's good to see your name on here. It's good to feel your energy on here. All right, you all. So yeah. So if you think of a question later, feel free to come back to this and put it in the comments. I'm happy to answer. If you have anything that you would like for me to address, feel free to email that to me. And yeah, I think that's all. And if there's anybody that you think could benefit from hearing this information, I'd love for you to share it. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a really good week. Thank you so much. Bye.